What's up everyone? My name is Max. Welcome to the channel. If you're new, welcome back to the channel if you've been here before, and welcome to today's video. And today's video is all about walking 10,000 steps a day. So in 2025, I walked 10,000 steps every day for the entire year. And since it's the start of a new year, and I know a lot of people out there have goals for fitness, health, or weight loss, I thought it would be the perfect time to make a video on this topic. In 2025, I set out on a health and fitness journey, and I wanted it to be something that I could stick with. That's obviously, whenever it comes to weight loss, the biggest struggle that people have is making a plan of something they can stick to. And for me, 10,000 steps a day sounded like the perfect way to go because it was something that was interesting and different. It felt like something I could stick to, and it would also help me reach my fitness goals. Now, the idea of 10,000 steps a day is nothing new. There's hundreds or maybe even thousands of videos on YouTube about this topic. However, I haven't seen a lot that have covered the idea of doing 10,000 steps a day for 365 days. So I wanted to give you a little bit of a different perspective on it and share my experience of how it went. This video will be broken down into 3 different sections. I'll be going over the progress I made, tips for sticking with it along the way, and some bonuses that came along with doing this challenge. First things first though, gotta get a sip of coffee. So the first section, and probably the biggest, is progress. Now, when it came to progress of this challenge, I didn't necessarily have a specific weight I was trying to reach or a specific goal for anything beyond doing the 10,000 steps because I wanted it to be something that was a little bit malleable. I wanted to first stick with the 10,000 steps and make sure I could do that and then adjust anything along the way afterwards. But honestly, doing the 10,000 steps was the biggest contributing factor to any progress I made. So just by doing that, I was already achieving my goals. Now, when it comes to weight loss, I did end up losing over 20 pounds in 2025. And yes, there were a few different things I did throughout the year, but 10,000 steps a day was without a doubt the biggest contributing factor. By walking 10,000 steps a day, I was in what's called a calorie deficit, where I was burning more than I was taking in, and I was able to lose weight that way. Now, a calorie deficit can be achieved through either exercise or eating less food. As long as you are below the calories it takes to maintain where you're at, you will be in some sort of calorie deficit. For me, the range I tried to stick to was between 500 and 750 calories a day with a deficit because that is within the healthy range for weight loss, but it's also a little bit on the higher end, so I was able to consistently lose weight rather than having 100 or 200 calories to work with, which could go positive or negative depending on the day. Now, you might say if you're someone into fitness that walking 10,000 steps a day does not equate to burning 500 to 750 calories, but I did do a lot of my walking on the treadmill, so I was able to work with different inclines and go off the calorie ranges in those, combined with doing some outside walking as well. So I will say, if you are doing 10,000 steps a day to lose weight, I highly recommend sticking with the treadmill or wearing a fitness watch or using your phone so you can track the calories in a more specific way. And yes, it's not always going to be perfect, but it's definitely better to have a ballpark than just completely guess. The other bit of progress that came with walking 10,000 steps a day was forming some healthier habits overall. This included things like eating healthier. I tried out intermittent fasting for a little bit as well. And all of these things combined with the 10,000 steps created a healthier lifestyle overall for me. I also started watching my sugar intake. Some processed foods I was still doing, like protein powders and other things, but it all came down to forming the healthy habit of 10,000 steps a day and then having other things to build upon that. Now, the last piece of progress I'll stick with you is that I'm still doing it to this day. Yes, 2025 ended a couple weeks ago, but I'm still walking 10,000 steps a day, and that has now shifted into doing some running as well because I want to run more in 2026. 31! However, getting the 10,000 steps in is still happening. every single day. And I think that's all due to the fact that it is something that's relatively easy to stick with. I would say if you have an hour set aside where you can walk, or if you work at a job where you do a lot of walking, this is something that's very easy to achieve. And like I said, the progress over time with calories burned, forming the habits of it, and just getting into an overall healthier mindset is definitely worth the trade-off for the time. Getting into the next section, I'm going to be talking about some of the tips I have for sticking with 10,000 steps a day and how I was able to consistently do that for 365 days in the year. The first tip is do it early. Now, this is something that you don't have to do. It obviously depends on your schedule and your structure of your day. But for me, waking up early and getting the steps in, or the majority of the steps in, was definitely something that helped me achieve the goal throughout the entire year. What I started doing is waking up earlier than I used to and just getting at least half of my steps done for the day. So before anybody else's day really started, I was able to already dip into achieving that goal. And honestly, most days I would just get all of my steps in right away. That way I didn't have to think about it. You know, if I wanted to get my 10,000 steps in and then watch all the Harry Potter movies and sit on the couch, I could if I wanted to. Did I do that? No. Would it be fun? Obviously. But the moral of the story is that getting started earlier in the day eliminated distractions, and I was able to just get it done and be over with it. The next tip is doing the treadmill versus going outdoors. Now, I would say I definitely did a mix of the two throughout the year, and that would depend on things such as the weather. I'm here in Minnesota, so I don't necessarily want to go outside and walk on ice in 3-degree weather during the winter. So I definitely lean into the treadmill during that time. But during the summer, I would say I was definitely doing a split. I would maybe do half an hour to 45 minutes on the treadmill, and then I would go finish my walk outside either at that time or later in the day. And this comes down to the idea of keeping things exciting and including variety. You know, even if you do have a TV show or a movie to watch while you're working out, listening to a podcast, whatever it is, it can get a little bit repetitive if you're just doing the treadmill, or say you're outside for the majority of the steps and you're walking the same course every day. It can get a little bit boring. It can get a little bit repetitive. So I would say definitely, if you're able to, mix it up. Switch it up. Maybe one day you go on a walk completely outside, the next day is entirely the treadmill, and then the third day you do a mix of both. That way it's not getting too repetitive. You won't start to hate doing it. And that way you can jump into it and stick with your goal and make the progress you want to. The last tip I have is distract yourself while you're doing your walking. If you think you are going to do 10,000 steps while doing nothing else, I don't know what to tell you. I'm sure there are some people out there who are able to do this, but for me, if I'm on the treadmill and staring at a wall for an hour, I am going to give up on the entire idea of 10,000 steps for a day within a few days. And I knew going into it, I didn't want to do that. So right off the bat, I started watching YouTube videos, watching TV shows, or watching movies while I worked out, since I do have a mounted TV. But I also had times where I would watch stuff on my phone. So if you don't have a mounted TV, don't let that sway you away from doing this. But having any kind of distraction in general was definitely helpful for me. When I would go outside, I would play music from my phone, and it just helps pass the time. You know, you're not doing this repetitive thing left, right for an hour and 20 minutes, and just dreading it and wanting it to end. When you have something else you're doing, a distraction to take you away from the idea that you really are just walking, it goes by so much faster. And a lot of times I would just get sucked into whatever I was watching, and I would go above my goal. There were some days where I would get in 15,000 steps, or maybe I would find a walking partner or hanging out with a friend. We'd get a coffee and go on a walk, and I would have 20,000 step days. So having something else to do while you walk is definitely a positive impact to achieving the goal, and I highly recommend doing it. If you are able to just walk, props to you, because I can never just do that. The last section of this video is some unexpected bonuses I found while walking 10,000 steps a day. The first of these is mood boosting and the sense of accomplishment. Now, for me, I think a lot of this came from the fact that I was doing it earlier in the day, but I think no matter when you do your walking, you can definitely get the same effect. For me, doing 10,000 steps a day was definitely an accomplishment, and you feel good after accomplishing something. It's just how the brain works. So by doing that for me right away in the morning, I was able to accomplish something, like I said earlier in the video, before a lot of people would wake up during the day. I know my wake up time is a little bit crazy to some people, but I do enjoy getting up at between 4 and 4:30 a.m. So I would wake up then, get a little bit of coffee, brush my teeth, come downstairs and walk and be done by like 5:30 or 6. And a lot of people in America, at least, weren't up by that time. So it's nice knowing that I was able to achieve one of my goals and do something before a lot of people even started their day. And this will also boost your mood. No matter when you do your steps throughout the day, getting out and exercising alone does that, but also going with a sense of accomplishment, you're able to have these two factors playing into each other that just puts you in a better mood throughout the day. The next unexpected bonus is a better sleep schedule. Now, I just mentioned that I usually get up between 4 and 4:30 a.m. every day, but doing the steps helped me get on a better sleep schedule overall for both when I went to bed and when I woke up. By having this goal I knew I wanted to accomplish, and knowing that I had to do it within a certain window if I wanted to feel my best and get it out of the way for the day, I started going to bed and waking up on a much more strict timeline. And that honestly worked out great for me because I wasn't having times where I would go to bed at 10 and wake up at 4, or go to bed at 8 and wake up at 5. I got into a routine, and that does also play in to mood boosting and having some consistency throughout your day. Now, the last unexpected bonus, and maybe one of my favorites, is you can eat more if you want to. Now, yes, this does go a little bit against the idea of losing weight, but if you're wanting to do the steps to lose weight and you can stick to your calorie deficit most days, or maybe you're already someone who's super fit, but you're just wanting to do this challenge to get more steps in to be healthier overall, you can consume more calories. And there are some days where I definitely took advantage of this. Whether it's someone's birthday, a holiday, the Super Bowl, we all have those times where we eat more than we burn. And because I was walking 10,000 steps a day, burning those extra 500 to 750 calories, I could technically eat that amount more and not gain any weight. And that was one of the great bonuses that I found throughout doing this over the entire year. You know, I could eat 750 calories more because I burned it and not gain any weight. And yes, like I said, obviously I would not lose any weight or be in a calorie deficit for that day, but knowing that there wasn't a negative impact with eating more was definitely a good mindset shift. And I didn't have anything going on in the back of my mind saying, hey, should I eat this extra 10 chips? I could just do it and know that there wasn't going to be a huge negative impact the next day. So that's about all I have for walking 10,000 steps a day. If you have any questions about it, definitely leave a comment below and I will respond to it as best I can. I highly recommend doing this if you want to be on any sort of fitness journey. It's great to have something consistent that's not too difficult. And if you're able to accomplish it in a year, you can then manipulate it into another goal. Like I said, this year, I am still sticking with the 10,000 steps, but I am including more running. And I can't wait to see how that goes and how I evolve from 2026 going into 2027. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you thought of it in the comments below, and I will see you in the next one.